darkness falls. Lotion in your eyes, and I need you to let me go, to let it flow. I'm falling down. Your waves are pulling me under. I drown to the sound of thunder. The ocean is taking another life. Your waves are pulling me under. We all love what makes us suffer. The ocean is taking another life. I'm caught in your riptide.
Happy Monday, everybody.
Yo!
Yeah! Another week.
All right. Another
Yeah.
week.
Hot damn, I hope this week consists of like 2 days in the office shooting videos and then suddenly hopping on a plane and going someplace.
Yeah. Places.
We love places, don't we, folks?
Man. What a crazy weekend for everybody. There was Andrew became a celebrity, just international. Everybody's talking about him. The Shark Week special airs, and then everybody else, I'm assuming, did stuff.
Is it was your stuff from this weekend fully finished today, Brian?
What's up?
The family stuff, was that all?
Yeah,
a good
yeah.
time?
No, that wrapped up. Technically, everybody wrapped up this morning, but we GTFO'd last night, and with the blessing of the rest of the family, everybody was like, "Man, if I could be in my bed, I would." So we made it back home last night.
Oh, good.
Yeah, and then got up early this morning and finished taking everything back to the property. We moved the telescope. We brought the telescope out because we thought we might do a stargazing thing, and then we didn't. And then most likely I wrecked it by having it be at 130 degrees inside a car. But I realized that it definitely didn't need to go back to this house. If it was going to go back anywhere, it should be at the new place, and so dropped it off at the new place. That's the thing.
Well, I
Bryce, what did you do?
I did a lot of streaming. I did streams this week. So we're doing
Marbles?
No marbles. I'm doing I'm doing Final Fantasy 9 on Fridays, Friday Fantasy 9 on here on the Twitch stream. And so we did that. Saturday night after I got back watching Hobbs and Shaw.
How was it? I mean, did I pretty much see it in the in the previews that definitely made sure to reveal every set piece of the entire movie?
I actually never saw the trailers or
there was
those previews. That
it was amazing
you were
because
talking about.
like I remember 3 different previews and all 3 previews looked like completely different movies.
Yeah.
And then I pieced together, I bet there are 9 set pieces and now I've seen them all.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's not like a deep or hard movie to comprehend. I actually will say I have not seen many of the Fast and Furious movies. I saw the first one on cable TV, I'm sure.
I don't think I've seen any of them.
But I associate the brand with like nail biting stunts, right? Like they had this whole Alamo pre-show that was like, check out, this is what you missed. These are who these people are. Here's a car driving out of one building into another building, and they're both skyscrapers, and all this other stuff. And I feel like Hobbs and Shaw was really weak on the stunts, because it's not a driving.
Was it at least
movie very
heavy
much.
on the characters? Because it seemed like the previews played up, for a lot of love. The Rock and Jason Statham.
Yeah, I mean they have a fun back and forth sort of rivalry relationship. So I think
Not
that
enough
kind
to
of works.
carry the
It
whole
wasn't
thing.
clear
though.
in the trailer.
I will say the third act is very weird because it just feels like a tourism board ad for the country that is take place in. And it's like, we get it done. I don't know. But I also get it because The Rock is in that movie. But yeah, I don't know. It's fine. I would be interested
Wait,
to hear
is it Samoa?
Yeah,
Because he's actually Samoan?
He's Samoan,
Okay,
yeah.
got it.
So I don't know. I would actually be interested to hear if what Fast and Furious fans think about it, because it's not like really heavy on the. I mean, there's some driving stunts, but there's also a bunch of like just fight scenes.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where they're, like, I guess if they're differentiating the two, it's like this is the one where people punch more,
Right.
and there's crazier villains.
Less punch it, more punching.
Yeah.
Oh,
Hit
that's
nitrous on your fist.
What? Maybe the villain is Idris Elba, not a supercar, you know?
right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Idris Elba's great. Idris Elba, by the way, is a good
self-described Black Superman.
Yes, that's right.
I mean, he's amazing, full stop, no matter what. But
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, it was a neat. That was. I haven't seen it, but you watch the trailer and you go, "This is great," because they get the charismatic villain.
Yeah.
Is, you know, weak movies, you have weak villains. They're like, yeah, I'm gonna do my plot. You're like, Idris Elba, I'm like, yeah, I want to see him knock them around. You know?
Yeah, and he does, and he has a good reason to. And apparently, he was like already a character in this universe. Anyway, so there's also like a history with them.
Yeah, the only thing that I read that was critical of it from the Fast and the Furious fan perspective is that, like, there's definitely an element of, like, you know, Jason Statham's character, like, murdered the family of, like, some of our main characters in, like, previous versions of Fast and the Furious. So it's, like, it's a little bit of a whitewashing to be like, yeah, but he's funny and he's got an accent, and I'll bet you him and The Rock are really going to get on each other's nerves.
Yeah. Yeah, that was I'll say the Alamo pre-show for Hobbs and Shaw was very good. It was like a little video essay or like the final bit felt like a little video essay of like, here's how, you know, who Hobbs and Shaw are, and, you know, it was this cute sort of commentary thing. Yeah, I don't know. Hobbs and Shaw. Check it out.
right on.
You guys ready to do a show?
Yes,
Yeah.
indeed.
All right, then, Andrew, I'm going to count you in 3, 2.
Hello and welcome to the Weird Things podcast. I'm Andrew Main, joined by Justin Robert Young,
Hello, everybody.
Mr. Bryce Castillo,
Oh, hi, that's me. Hello.
and Mr. Brian Brushwood.
Yo ho!
Gentlemen, there's been a story out there that I've hesitated for us to discuss, because sometimes you hear something, you go, oh, that's fun, and you go, no, that's stupid. That's really, really stupid. And the more people talk about it, maybe not as many people realize that it's stupid, and this could be very bad.
I think. So, are you saying that you have a Naruto run around this subject?
Yes. So there was started off as kind of a joke Facebook post, and then it sort of grew from there. And that was, hey, let's find out what's at Area 51. What if we all storm Area 51 and go see what's there?
Yeah, they can't stop us all, as the tagline says. According to the initial Facebook post, the plan is for everybody to Naruto run through the gunfire that would come from the military defending what is indeed still an active military base. Man, I'm actually with you, because initially I thought that this was going to be very, very, that this is like a very funny thing. The memes immediately just became something that was very funny. But like lately, the more people that I hear kind of talk about it seriously, I'm like, wait, is this going to be just like a tremendous tragedy? It's like, is this going to be like a weird, like, reverse Kent State by way of like a meme apocalypse?
I mean, it's got to be that somebody somewhere decides, hey, what's a good way to spend $100,000 that makes this a win for everybody? And, you know, they wait for everybody to show up, and there's like a welcoming committee, and they take them on a tour, and then they, I don't know, tell them, these are the crazy things we're working on. Oh, that's an alien. Don't tell anyone, or whatever. Like it becomes a Universal Orlando ride or something.
Well, one, it's the military. Two, Area 51, it's not like it's just off the road there and you just turn there and go show up at the gates. There is a tremendous amount of desert that you have to get through to get there. And there's private security that patrols the outer areas of that. And there are fences and there's other stuff. It's also the closest towns to it have a tiny amount of infrastructure. So the first concern for the towns are like, hey, there's like 80 hotel rooms here. We're afraid of a bunch of people showing up on the highways and clogging things up, which, you could say like, that's their problem. And it's like, well, it's like, Brian, the desert, how many people don't know the desert, come out to the desert and are like, oh, let's go do a fun thing in the desert.
Yeah, that's usually the opening of a Weird Thing segment. I mean, here's my point: is like these people are gonna show up, and it seems like the cheaper option is to spend the money to put on a show for them and to take them around, and plus also we all know that virtually nothing super secret or interesting is happening at the site that has been traditionally called Area 51, and instead, figure out some good to come of that. But it's like, it does seem insane that they would meet force with force in this situation. It seems like you would take that wind.
I'm not worried about they're going to gun. They're never going to get that close. My concern is more like, do we want hundreds of people roaming through the desert like idiots, thinking that it's that? That's concern number one. I don't think they should open up. The base does do secret stuff still. They still have the active wing over in Las Vegas that sends crews there. They work on stuff, and stealth drone tech, things like this. They do not want to bring people there because it is a active military facility and a research facility. And also, like, who knows how many people really show up? Probably going to be an overblown thing. My issue is just like the people just, wandering, trying to get there, wandering the desert and stuff. And that, I don't know how you really try to organize a thing like this, but I don't think it's, hey, everybody, come on over. It's cool. Come check out our military base.
So let me ask you a question from the internet side of this then, because in my mind, I'm like,
Justin Robert Young.
Yeah. Like, all right, this is funny. Somebody has this funny idea. They obviously make it a joke. It's posted in S posting because I'm in shambles. Like, this, for an internet crowd, has all the hallmarks of, look at this silly thing that I'm liking on Facebook, and now I get likes for sharing this silly joke, right? And then it kind of like played out a little bit. You see the pictures of military people. There's like leaked photos of military people trying to explain what Naruto running is, which is, again, it was all very, very funny until it kept going. And then the more people started talking about it seriously, the more I got worried about it. And now it's kind of made me think, like, is this just kind of the story of the internet, where now, even if you are telling what you know to be a sarcastic joke, if it hits the right tenor in our society, eventually someone's not going to take it like that, and now you're responsible for it? Like, should this be taken down? Should Facebook take it down? Should the creator take it down? Is there any, like, or is it now just kind of beyond?
I mean, that's worth touching on, the fact that, tongue-in-cheek, wink or not, this is a stated conspiracy to raid a United States government military base. Like, there's no squinting that causes it to be anything other than that. And at that point, like, let's say, and I think we're all on the same page that we don't expect gunfire to erupt or anything like that. But let's say such a thing did happen. Where does culpability land? Does it land at the feet of Facebook? Does it land at the feet of the guy who thought he was making a joke and something went out of his control? Or does it just land at the feet of people storming a desert base?
Well, I think it starts with, if getting closer to when the event is going to be, and if it's not like disavowed, that'll be a problem for the creator. Because right now the creator's like, yeah, it's a funny joke. It's a funny kind of like, let's all just do this to see what's there because it's funny. And then it builds momentum, and it's like, oh, a few thousand people sign on, that's funny. The problem is when you do get to a couple million, you're like, man, chances of a few hundred people showing up or some other people, going there, it increases. And, if they think there's going to be a real threat, roads nearby, they're going to stop, they're going to ask people, they're going to turn people away, tell them, hey, whatever. And like, I'm not terribly worried about the ability to contain this or manage this, but I do worry a bit, though, that I'm like, man, like, I hope people realize it's a joke, because, like this, I don't know if you've ever seen this or seen it as close as you can get to it. The desert alone is no friggin' joke. You know?
Right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, that is something that I hadn't even processed, but now that I have fresh horrors in my mind as implanted by Andrew Main, I'm glad that I have an even fuller sense of things that can go wrong. That the tragedy would not be a bunch of people, walking hand in hand into gunfire. It would be
No.
somebody just being an idiot and not realizing that there's a lot of desert between here and there, running out of gas, and God forbid something happening to them, right? Like, not being hydrated. There's a million things that can go wrong in the desert, especially when you're just, doing something as a lark and you're not planning for it. But beyond that, like, I don't know. This is like a lot of the kind of growing up of the internet is that I'd always sort of operated in a kind of pre-fully operating internet mindset where it's like, hey, look, and 99 times out of 100, you're telling a joke to your self-selected group, and people know the rules of the road, and you're able to kind of have it exist there. But now more and more, things kind of break out, and I don't know where the new rules are, and with this, it's like this was really funny to me for the first week, and all the memes were great, and now it's like I heard, and it's funny because you mentioned this today. I was listening to an interview last night with or a podcast last night with Chuck Klosterman, and Klosterman was saying he brought it up unsolicited and said he's on this book tour now, and somebody asked him about it, and he was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. When is this supposed to be? And somebody else shot their hand up and said September 20th, because they knew immediately what the Facebook thing was. And it was he was frightened that even if it is a joke, the fact that more than one person in the audience was asking him about it. Now it's oh crap. And that made me scared.
So go to Google Maps, Bryce, if you can, look up Groom Lake, and you can see that it's a very isolated place. You've got mountain ranges around it, whatever. It's literally, it's not hey, we just park our car here and we just run across a field towards that. It can be a fence line there, but the actual base is way. Go to satellite view. Even
well, and that sort of brings up the thought in my mind is we're all aware that however many RSVP yeses you get for a party, you can expect less than that number to show up. But I think in general that we tend to think, maybe 1 in 10 will show up, maybe 1 in 50. But if the number is 1 in 200, that still means 100,000 people are going to show up. Let's say it's 1 in 500. That's still the population bigger than my hometown showing up in the middle of the desert. 1 in 1,000. Let's say 1 in 1,000. It's a lot of people.
Let's get the van right now. Weird Things Desert Survival Kits.
Man, because those memes were so funny.
Oh yeah. It does look like they've actually taken the actual page. What we were showing on screen was the cached version. It does look like the original group, They Can't Stop All of Us, is not available anymore.
Well, and
Apparently, and
so here's a sideways vector. Yes, I understand 100% why Facebook would take this down. This is nothing but liability incarnate. But if they're willing to take down a joke idea of taking on the man, then that's a pretty good indicator that Facebook would also take down a page about taking on the man.
do we know if Facebook took it down, or did the organizers take it down?
I mean, it just says it's not available
We do
now.
not know that at this moment.
I have not followed. I do know that there has been some hand wringing by the creator. I have not seen a comment from Facebook. Oh yeah, he has a fairly robust Wikipedia page, of course. But goddamn. I mean, it's just. You want to know actually the first time that I really felt any twinge of oh wait, this is gonna be bad or weirder than I thought it was gonna be was as soon as everybody was or you started hearing people that were oh well, that's not where they keep the real alien tech. That's in this other place. It's oh no wait, this is broken out beyond just the internet joke community. So that this is okay. So it looks like it was
the creator took it down, Matty Roberts.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
it's one of these things where it's you're there's no villain here. There's no bad person, it's because it's like, oh, this is funny. Like, yeah, like, hey, do you want to, like, you guys want to see what's there? Yeah, click on there. Let's go there. Let's do this. And then now and I think the creators like realize like, oh, geez, like that large of a number.
If there's a bad guy, I perceive that there are two adults in this story. One adult is everybody who is in on the joke, who knew that they were making a joke. The other adult is the U.S. government, who rolled their eyes and said, okay, you're making a joke. And if there's a tragedy, it's all the children who everybody realized, oh, wait, they're really going to go storm the candy store.
Well, I mean, like Facebook's an adult here, right?
Okay, yeah. They're the third adult. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, it's like this is being spread on their platform, and so if something bad happens, then they were the gas that took the match and made it a conflagration.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, man. Recently, for those who didn't know, I went to a family reunion over the weekend, and there was somebody. There's a few small business entrepreneurs in my family, and one of them was asking like, "Hey, what are you doing on Facebook?" And I found myself weirdly having to explain that it's like I find Facebook gross, and I hate the fact that, time and time again, they figure out a way to tell me one thing and then squeeze money out of me when they change the rules. So I just don't do anything, and it felt dumb. So I find myself weirdly hating Facebook, but not being able to properly articulate why. But this situation, I mean, they sold ads, they sold soap ads the entire time all of this happened, and claimed no culpability, took no action, and was like, thanks for all the attention.
Hold on, wait a minute. I'm just starting my Facebook group. Storming the Schwood compound. They can't stop all of us.
I mean,
We definitely cannot.
enjoy. If you show up, bring plumbing.
The PVC entrance fee.
Yeah, right. The PVC. The P stands for payment.
Okay, you should post like a wedding registry. Like yes.
We're like, hey, I hear you're coming.
Yeah, exactly. Soap dish? Could you just give me a soap dish?
All of this sort of underscores our curiosity about a place like Area 51 and the mysteries of like, what does the government have? Like, are there aliens? What's really going on? And the problem with that answer is that, you talk to people who confidently believe in this thing, it's nothing will convince them otherwise. Because
yes,
as long as they're a secret, there's like, there's this place we can't go. We can't know what's going on there because turns out we turned a 2.5 millimeter radar dish into a 2.2 millimeter radar dish. But nobody can know this.
Keep in mind, they could show up. That class of people could show up, be handled or be handed a badge that says, hey, this RFID will identify you as a 5-star gold general. You have the run of the place, go nuts. They will spend all day running around, and the story they will post is like, well, I didn't get the real Area 51.
Yeah. That was a story Clinton had asked apparently, like when his first time in office.
Was it aliens?
So what's the deal with the aliens? And they're like, they're no aliens. It's like, oh, okay.
Oh, and by the way, for anybody who hasn't heard us talk about this before, I think I speak for the podcast in general when I say that our take is the fairly sensible take that at the height of the Cold War, it was very tactically effective to have everybody thinking about aliens while you were testing out nutty Cold War weapons. So there was no incentives to disavow people of crazy alien notions. And now we're at a place where there's still no incentive to disavow people of nutty alien notions.
I don't think that there's ever going to be a time where people are like,
the
government's like, oh no.
It is tactically correct to say that it is aliens. I am not saying this under coercion.
But my point is like right now you can't point to a specific reason to disavow people. But back in the 90s, back when the Soviet Union was still around, it was actively an important thing to not disavow people of that notion for just to keep more chaos in the Cold War communications.
Yeah, it was when you're dealing with military tech and things like this, the highest level of security, if the press runs out there and says UFO, more important for the government to keep the military tech a secret than,
Yes.
like
Right. Well,
work to their
and
advantage.
you can imagine somebody doing the game theory where they're like, okay, what is the perfect way to phrase something such that my Soviet counterpart might think that we actually have alien technology? And then you would say some version of, we can neither confirm nor deny. Also, what's this over here?
Do you think though that like kind of the military intelligence level, they ever really expected the Soviets to think that we had alien tech?
No, but I suspect that there's value in, as a wise man once said, chaos is a ladder, right? And even if the Soviet intelligence didn't believe it, if the Soviet, even if it's a lottery ticket with a 1 in 100 chance of paying off, the chance that the Soviet general populace might believe it, or that Americans might act in a different way because they believe we have enlightened technology from aliens or whatever. Like there's so many chaos vectors that it seems like it would be better to press the chaos button than to not press it.
Hold on. Do you know who said chaos is a ladder?
Littlefinger, yeah.
Played by?
I was gonna say Peter Baelish. No, the guy from the mayor from The Wire.
Yeah.
Who also plays Dr. J. Allen Hynek in Project Blue Book, Brian.
What?
This story about based on the real man investigating UFO conspiracies.
Oh, that's
It was also,
fantastic.
my friend's father.
I'm glad I finally cracked the code on that one.
Dun dun dun.
I mean, do you think that that's going to be a coincidence? Come on.
I met him at a Project Blue Book party, and dude, talk about an awesome premiere party. I just want to tell you, there was like dessert bars everywhere, like teppanyaki. It was incredible. Every other premiere I've been to since then just pales in comparison.
Yeah. This is no Blue Book. A disappointed Andrew Main exhales.
I'll tell you what is better than the Blue Book premiere party, and that
What's
is
that?
being part of an amazing club of over 280 beautiful patrons that keep us loud, live, and independent over at Weird Things. That's patreon.com/Weird Things. Hit us up, man. We love staying on the reg. We love bringing you the weird news. We love telling you about everything that your plebe coworkers are going to be talking about next week. We were way out in front of this Area 51 thing, and then sat on it for a long time. And
Well,
if
we
you want
actually
us
did
to
cover it. We did cover it a few weeks ago.
Yeah, but Andrew wasn't around.
Yeah, but people were on the tip when it happened too.
Yep. So head on over to patreon.com/Weird Things. Do us a favor. If you enjoy this show, just $1 an episode. That's not too much. Why don't you hit us up?
Hell yeah. And also, you get the After Things show before anybody else. That's where we talk about all of our projects, how we go about making our creativity our living, and, of course, answer any questions that you guys have. So head on over, patreon.com/Weird Things.
Yep.
So you're sitting there with your hoverboard going, man, I've got this, like the real floating kind of hoverboard. Like, man, this hoverboard's awesome.
Like a hexcopter or a quadcopter or something?
Yeah, one of those, it's got a bunch of turbines in it, gas-powered turbines. You stand on it and you float.
Gas
right?
powered, man. And so meanwhile, you just you're like the hobgoblin, just extreme sporting around, looking for Peter Parker because you're still mad at him.
Yeah, and you're like, I know like France and England were cool now, but if this Brexit goes south, we're gonna need a fast way. And you're French, by the way. You're like, we're gonna need to invade them fast, like real fast.
What's funny is
We're going over the channel. They can't stop us all.
yeah. Hey, how long is the English Channel? Like 10 miles?
What its most narrowest, yeah, it's short like that, but yeah. So French inventor, the guy made his hoverboard, and what he says was just a demonstration, but I think is a dry run for a hobgoblin invasion of England. He decided to try to cross the channel like a week or so ago. No dice, missed trying to land on a platform and refuel. Guess what? Did it again, succeeded.
I'll tell you what.
Oh.
This dude wants to make international headlines. He does the same thing, only from Mexico to Texas. And just say, like, try building a wall over this, MFR. Boo!
and then gets shot down by some Texas
No
guy.
way, dude. Nobody would shoot down a Frenchman. Come on.
And in the irony of the Maginot Line is lost on nobody. But yeah, it's cool. If you get a chance to check out the video, it's pretty damn cool. Very, very cool. Hats off to the this crazy guy and his magical flying thing. Frankie Zapata.
So this is gas powered then, right?
Yep.
Man, God, that's got to be a wild experience. Yeah, I mean, that's like just literal flying.
It's a
Like-
22-mile trip, and he stopped halfway to refuel.
Oh, okay. So he has to keep. So, but I guess
I mean,
lands
at
on
some point you end up just making a helicopter, right? And then you're just flying on top of a helicopter. So it does make sense. A couple of 6-cylinder engines or whatever.
I mean,
Turbines, yeah.
Yeah, it definitely looks cool. I mean, like Andrew is not kidding. Like this looks like Green Goblin, Hobgoblin kind of board, right? Although I'm always curious, can we hear the sound? Can we hear how loud?
Oh, it's
this
got to be
thing
like
is?
a wee. It's got to be like a
When he's still a little
weed
way off the
whacker.
coast here, but we can play from their video. There's also a helicopter following him.
Do you think it's doing like that same kind of like Segway like autocorrection or like one of those
Oh, it's got to, right? Because
rollerboards?
He says this thing takes an incredible amount of time to learn to balance. I don't think it is, because those things, if it were electric, it would be easier. But when you're trying to go from combustion engine,
Yeah, it's a little more difficult to fine tune the individual fans to correct.
you don't have the control units and stuff. So that's
there
why
you can hear it.
it's the inventor's the guy that flies it.
Man, you run into one owl, you're boned.
a lot of owls over the channel,
I mean,
over the English channel.
Oh, Bryce, don't get me started about those famous channel owls. Just, oh,
I would like to think.
I see you in the chat puts it best. He says, I mean, if you had a chair on this thing, everybody be like, meh. You're right. It's only the fact that he's standing on it that makes it extraordinary.
I don't know. It's incredibly small.
get out of here. If he had a little chair, I wouldn't care if he had some zinc on his nose and he was in a lifeguard's outfit.
He
Like,
could make it.
cool
He
as
could
hell.
take two of them and make it look like a hover bike. It'd be awesome.
He should have two of them. I don't know why he refueled. He could have had one on each leg and be all like roller skating guy.
No, I mean, I don't know. So wait, so Brian, you don't think that this is something that is that you can see yourself interacting with at any
Oh,
point?
no. I love everything about this. It's just that I am very aware that we are novelty-seeking individuals, and ICU, I think, brings up a legitimate point that if it looks too much like the helicopter that's following him, then all of a sudden it doesn't activate any of our serotonin
It looks
rushes.
nothing like a helicopter. It's just it's a guy standing on a thing you could put in your trunk.
Well, that's a weird way to restate exactly what I just said, Andrew, but I agree. Like,
Oh, so putting the chair on it downplays that. Okay, I get it. I'm sorry, Brian, for restating obviously. No, you put a chair on it. It's an awesome flying chair.
okay, well, why not put a box around it and also wings?
A blade.
Increase the motor size
right.
50 friggin' times. You're like, hey, look at my jetpack. There are little wings on the back. It's just an airplane. Not impressed.
I think Brian's just afraid of being
Here at
this
the
guy.
San Diego Yacht and Boat Show. Good morning, everybody. I'm hanging out with my friend John. Fox 5 Morning News starts. Look over there. And it starts right now.
One of the greatest videos of all time. I mean, that for those of you who have not seen it, that's the guy who's on the like water jet, like the water jet pack. So it just like shoots the water out of whatever ocean you're over, but he just knocks over the host in the drink and it's over.
I'll tell you what the thing where I go, okay, I'm not impressed is when you say, oh, company releases new flying car, and it's 40 friggin' quadcopters, carrying a capsule, and you're like, yeah, that's yes. I think 40 quadcopters could probably carry a human. I think that just needs a lot of duct tape, But
So all right, so the idea is that like for this to be a fascinating tech that captures the imaginations of people, it can't be reinventing the helicopter, right? It's got to be something that, as it iterates and gets smaller and more powerful, that it would be substantively different than a helicopter. Does that capsulize it?
I would say that it seems to me like what they've, anytime somebody figures out a way to match the prototypical version of something extraordinary in our mind, whether it's, perceived to be a person flying or, with those hydro jet packs, what looks like an Iron Man outfit or something like that. I think that stimulates us and gets us really stoked about it. And I think this guy did an extraordinary job of taking what looks like a comic book sci-fi thing and making it work.
Yeah, I'm with you. You should have thrown a pumpkin bomb at somebody and just really showed his boss.
That would have been amazing.
Speaking of pushing the frontiers of tech, Planetary Society had its light sail 2 unfurl, and it worked in space, I should add. This is their test of...
This is the one where we covered. It was one of many CubeSats that went up, and the experiment was to create a solar sail and to test the feasibility of that.
Yep, and so they did the unfurlment of it. Finally, they had the payload got deployed. We covered that, and then finally, what they did was the opened up, light, sun, photons caught it and started to push the thing along.
Oh wow, awesome!
Did we get specific measurements on how effective it was, or whether it matched expectations?
The sail is 32 square meters, 340 square feet for those playing at home. And as far as it has the ability to raise its orbit, as far as the other specifics on that, I have not dived deep. I am a backer, but I haven't really paid attention to it.
I mean, as long as it's able, even if it's not really able to go anywhere, if it's able to just keep it in orbit by virtue of, external forces through the sun, that's extraordinary.
Absolutely, because this thing can have, can use solar energy also to make adjustments as far as changing the shape of the sail. That's what's so exciting about this technology is, you just don't need to have fuel. The thing just uses the energy from the sun to keep going and going and going. In theory, it can keep going faster, and, it's a small step, but it's a really awesome step.
That's great. Congrats on the Planetary
here.
Society and all of their ongoing work.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a fun organization that's not just sending you a cool magazine. They're doing really cool things like this. So I've enjoyed watching what they're doing.
Hey, Andrew, forgive me if I take us on a quick side journey, but I was hanging out at my family reunion and I was flipping channels on the Discovery. They were doing the Shark Week, and
that was this year.
Yeah, I'll be good goddamned if you aren't on it on a prime Friday night time slot. What's going on with that?
Well, Discovery Channel found out about my extreme propensity towards seasickness and said, "Man, we would like to document a guy who gets really seasick going out to sea and just to see what happens." And, so, my Ghost Diver special aired. That was a lot of fun, a lot of work, and it was exciting to finally see that thing come together and air. So,
is it talking out of school to talk about the order of shoots or whatever, or is that too behind the scenesy for us?
No. We shot last year. The sequence of the show is pretty accurate. I mean, they tell, well, I went to Miami to learn about sharks. 3 minutes later, now that I know about sharks.
Right. Well, no. I guess specifically, I don't know if it was public knowledge that you had shot this a little over a year ago, and that I guess it's a testament to how good it was that rather than try to slot it into a bad slot last year, they held onto it and put it in a prime slot this year. So, but it was so much fun. I loved How
Brian, you know more about the mysteries of how they schedule stuff than I do.
I mean,
they shot
I
a bunch of
assume,
stuff
and
last
and
year.
this is Cord Killers Brian talking right now. Like in general,
Yeah, no, they shoot stuff. They'll shoot stuff because they were doing several shoots, for instance, in one part of the world. Like, okay, we're going to double back and do a couple episodes there or whatever. But yeah, so it's one of those things. So I did it last year. They're like, yeah, this was probably going to air next year. I'm like, okay,
that's
it
cool.
works out better for me. And then but still, we were still adding stuff to it though. We've been adding to it up until a couple weeks before. I was doing some more little bits and pieces for it because these things take a while to put together. So it was a lot of fun.
My
It was.
my favorite part of the series or of the special was at the end when you guys may or may not have laid out a pitch for what next year's Ghost Diver special might look like, where you talked about, well, I don't know, it seems to me like if I had it to do over again, I would add this, that, and the other thing. Wouldn't that be interesting? Anyway, who knows? End of episode.
Yeah, it was. We shot this thing in a very short. It was the fastest thing I've ever done as far as it comes together to put to TV. So you watch the show and you see that version 1 of the suit. That was not the plan. And it's just under TV deadlines. You'd often don't get to check in on things as much to see the development of things, and sometimes you're very surprised when you see, oh, that's the way that turned out. Okay, I guess we got to go shoot this now. And then reiterating very, very quickly. And, it was like I had multiple ideas for things I wanted to do. And basically the version 2 was something that was like, well, this is another thing. And let me basically have this ready to go. And
Well,
it was.
In that regard, and we might be wading into After Things territory here, I actually really adored that the scope of this first special was not Endgame, but instead was Iron Man 1, where it's just like, hey, here's an idea, here's a step in the right direction, here's a prototype, here's a revision on the prototype. Wouldn't it be great to see more? End of movie. I deeply adored all of that.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was, I liked, if anything, I'd love to show more of the behind the scenes process of, how we're trying to adapt and figure out. And, because we were doing experiments on seeing like the light camouflage, like we were doing we only had a very short window of time to do this. So I wanted to do a thing with 2 turtle decoys, and you don't even see them in the show, but we have one that has lights and one that doesn't. Well, we're trying to get everything ready to go. And by the time it's time to test it, it's dark out. So this light decoy that's supposed to match sunlight is now a neon sign.
Oh,
and,
right.
We go to test it and the sharks go eat go start nibbling on the thing that's glowing. And it's like, I guess it's a failure. And I'm like, or maybe if we tested this in the afternoon like we planned, it's not on anybody. It's not a production or anything. If it's anything, it's on me in trying to do all these technical things. So let me make that clear.
Well,
and that's like, just for people to understand, like this was a for real tech build. Right, like this is something where it all had to come together, and once you are shooting, like, this is like the train has left the station. Right, there's only X amount of time that you have to build it. There's only X amount of time you have to test it. There's only X amount of times that you have the opportunity to shoot it with the crew, and then you're literally globetrotting to the point where you are like about to go, deal with this stuff in the water with these sharks, which is just insane.
6 days before going to Australia to find out we won't be able to use a shark cage. And had the build 1 worked the way I wanted to, never would it, the only way it would have worked was with the shark cage. And that was a thing where it's like, you find out, nope, no shark cage. By the way, you were going to have we were going to have 5 divers. And again, this is just the reality of when you're trying to produce stuff, at any scale. It is the production team I worked with was fantastic. The ability to adapt. The people I worked with were incredible, and I'm so lucky. And that's just the thing, you have to roll with it because they're like, oh, shark cages got banned in Australia. What do we do now? And they're like, okay, here's this other thing I've been working on. Let me put this together. Let me do this. So it was the behind the scenes was fun because it was just trying to get things done.
Do you think that as a modern culture, we're a little bit more aware of the limitations of unscripted programming, where it's like, you know, it's I don't know. You can be set. You can understand that something real and wonderful is happening, but that there are certain realities to storytelling that need to be done. For example, if you're going to step out of a shark cage, you need to get the shot of you stepping out of a shark cage, and maybe that happens after the original event or what have you.
I think that people are. I think that people overestimate how much time and resources you have when you put on a production.
Oh,
I think
boy.
they think that, like, you know, you have millions of dollars and years to plan to go do something, and you're not dealing with 5 days before. No, we can't use a shark cage. You know, no, we can't have cabling going down there. They don't understand that. They think that everything you're doing, you get all the time in the world. You're not trying to make decisions in the next 30 minutes because that's your only chance to get the shot. On the other hand, like, yeah, when they see things edited, you think like, yeah, no, this took 20 minutes. This was 20 minutes of time that we're going to spit into 5 minutes because, you know, standing there waiting for sharks to show up, you know, is boring, you know, until they do show up, and then it's terrifying. But
I'll tell you what.
it was-
JC Calhoun in the chat says he's not a fan of the way they narrate these shows. I was jealous because you didn't have to narrate your own stuff. Like, somebody who is not you is talking about how great you are. Whereas, like, when I did Hacking the System, there was so much, anyway, I'm awesome because I did this. And luckily, I know this secret. And that was challenging for me. Whereas, like, if I could have had somebody else telling me that I'm great, then I would have loved that.
Yeah, I mean, it's when they have a format, they do, and so you go into that, and, you know, they have a format, and I was very glad that they for a Shark Week show, I had the only name Shark Week show, you know, my name in the title and this, but it was I'm thrilled to discover this is so outside of what they've ever done for Shark Week before, like this too, and that was, you know, like, hey, we're going to do a build show with a thing like this. And how do we even go about doing it? And you try to fit it into that format as much as possible. So doing the narration and stuff like they do in other shows worked out well. But, you know, it's cool. We're watching the video right now, and you can see, you know,
It looks
of the
so
blade.
good. The
It looks
2.0.
Doesn't it, though?
It looks incredible.
Can I just say this? Because, I mean, look, we have in various incarnations, all three of us, worked in television and created stuff, and you know the labor that it takes to do it, and you know what the idea is versus the execution. But I was so pumped to see how people connected to this, not only via people watching it and certainly in our community, but also the press. I mean, this was a concept that people found fascinating as it was that when you were coming up with the pitch and you were pitching it in the room. And that is so rare and so fun. And I was so excited to see that happen because, again, there's a million steps between idea and what shows up on screen. And it was so great to see there be so much excitement around the idea and the execution of putting it on there. So I think that's just a well-deserved victory lap for you.
Yeah, it was really nice to see that. And, you know, that was, you know, seeing it make Drudge Report, seeing it make New York Post, and seeing those things.
That's a moment where it's just like between Andrew and I, like, that's just one of those weird websites that has always like just been a part of things, but to watch it kind of expand, you know, I know Inside Media getting drudged is something that is like, oh yeah, we'll all high five, because that's just, for whatever reason, it occupies a space in your mind. And to just watch, like, boom, I kept going to my phone and just looking at it and just like smiling. It just made me smile.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, thank you guys for your support while doing it and cooperating with it. And it's still one of those things the actual experience itself, I still haven't fully processed. I mean, you see that in the show. And I thought, for the way the show's portrayed, where you see me step out there in the suit in the moment where first without the suit and the sharks being around me, amazing. And in the moment where, you know, everything comes together, we had no idea what was going to happen. I'm probably going to go out here and it's going to be just like the last time I came in here, you know, stepped outside, you know, the sharks are going to come up or whatever. And, you know, it'll be like, we gave it a shot. And then, you know, they didn't. They didn't. It was really, really, we had no idea what was going to happen.
Okay.
And
Can I throw a pitch out? And this is not to you, Andrew. I don't expect you to approve of anything I'm about to do, but I think it's fair to say that we're all fans of Elon Musk here, and I think it's fair to say that Elon Musk is the real life Iron Man, and I think it's fair to say that the Ghost Diver armor looks and feels a little bit like Iron Man. So I'm just going to say, if we were ever going to kindle a friendship between Andrew Mayne and Elon Musk, seems like now would be a good time for the Weird Things audience to ask what Elon Musk thinks of the stealth Ghost Diver armor.
let's not go there.
I'm just saying. You guys.
He's like, wait a minute. You mean the guy who was bitching about his Tesla last week?
Yeah. No.
No, congratulations, man! I'm so excited. My extended family, they're not in television, but they instantly grokked what the experiment was, and they instantly loved it. I heard my cousin behind me saying like the moment you stepped out into those great whites swimming around, there was like, holy cow! I mean, there was something visceral about the whole thing that was just wonderful.
There's so much like what you don't see, which is like we're in this submersible which has to be lowered off the back of the boat, and we're like in these 3-foot swells, so you get into it and it's like a carnival ride where all of a sudden it gets hoisted over the back, whoosh, you're ducked under the water. The first thing I see is a great white just sitting out there just looking at me like,
Odd.
Like,
bro,
hey, you're
what
new
are you doing
here.
here? I'm like, oh my God. And then we start lowering down, and because of the swells, the thing is going up and down and around. And as Andy Casagrande is the camera guy, he's the shark researcher, he's an amazing guy. He's the one who's shooting this and controlling the thing. We're being swung around and we're trying to get next to this reef, and we smash into the reef. And I'm like, this is like the worst carnival ride ever, because outside there are all these great white sharks. Finally, we get detached. We're going around, and then I hear this, and I'm like, what's that sound? He's like, oh, we lost one of the motors. I'm like, oh, geez. And then he's like, we got another one. So he keeps going and goes, and then I hear this. I'm like, what's that sound? He taps me on the shoulder and points up, and there's a great white gnawing on a float on top of the submersible.
Oh my gosh!
I'm like, I'm not even at the bottom yet. Finally, we get to the bottom. He undoes these. Along the way, he taps me and points to my foot because my foot's sticking out of the side of the cage. And he's like, "No, don't do that." And then finally, we get to the bottom. He opens up. That goes ka-chunk, ka-chunk, and there's great whites out there. And he opens up the door. He's like, "All right, do you want to get out?"
Oh.
I'm like, well, no, but I guess I have to at this point. And like I almost didn't have a shield, which, I'm still processing this.
See, this is the show I wanted. I want to see after watching this.
I mean, I'll, from the perspective of somebody that has been a part of many harebrained Andrew Mayne schemes. I've been there behind the warehouse trying to ride a tiny motorcycle through a fake suitcase and trying to duck the mirror on the way out and hitting my head. There is just something so amazing about watching this idea, like any of your other concepts for tricks and illusions and big spectacles that have come together either on television or for other purposes, that this just got to exist on that level that everybody could appreciate was just amazing. Because at the end of the day, it also is it's one of my favorite kinds of magic, which is magic without being magic, right? It's just taking these ideas and matching the tech with it, and then putting it under the most dramatic possible strain, which was you underwater with great whites.
So Brian, I think you can relate to this part, is that so it's one camera guy, we got GoPros, so it's Andy's with this wide angle camera, and so when we go to do the part where I have the suit on, I have to step away. I have to distance myself from him and the cage to isolate myself from the sharks, from the shark's mind, so I'm a separate entity or whatever, because that's when they get curious when you're wearing and they want to go inspect that. And I get away, and I'm like, all right, this is a good distance. But I'm like, man, look better if I was further away. Like I was really further away. Sharks. I'm like,
Well, and you
like,
find
man,
yourself in that moment. You're like, well, I mean, it's just 2 steps. I mean, how bad could that be? And then you realize what you're doing.
You know, because then you can look out beyond and you realize we're on a ledge and you see fins going on below me. You're going past below me, and I'm like, oh, geez. You know, they're everywhere, but I'm like, you know, I'm going to regret it if I don't get the good shot.
I got a question. The armor reads on the camera as though it would somehow provide some level of protection were you to get bit, but I'm going to assume that it's totally not the case.
No, there is nothing protective about it. If a great white decided to bite me, it would go right through. This is just a thin plastic material with a coating on it and a material on it and some sound insulation underneath it. It's designed to make me quiet. And also because the problem is that, like, if you wanted to be the best sort of armor to use underwater is actually is chainmail, or as you know our Renaissance friends say, chain or mail. And don't write us letters, folks. We know is to choose chainmail, right? Because what chainmail does it helps keep the teeth from piercing into you.
Right.
You know, there's the crushing force, which you'd rather have a broken arm than have the flesh stripped off your arm, right? So chainmail is great, but it's noisy. Is that it's maybe not noisy to us, but underwater, those metal links clinking against each other make a lot of sound, which is probably a good idea because if you're around sharks, your goal is to keep the sharks away from you. Yeah. Not to make them not know you're there and then come up and realize all of a sudden you are there.
Right.
I mean, I could go into the pros and cons, but anyhow, no. If they wanted to bite me, they would have been gone right through it.
All right, two things. I'm gonna guess if we and for all I know, you're already talking to Discovery, so don't react. But like, I would love to see the Mark III version of this armor do full on like octopus level camouflage, where it's like you just vanish into a coral reef or something like that. And then separately, failing that, I would love to see a like a get out of jail button that you press that tases a shark. I wonder if that's a thing. Like launches 2 probes and just kind of like makes it unpleasant to be around.
It's a thought. I don't.
Welcome to our new segment. Brian pitches ideas for Shark Week.
In the Mark I version, you see me test in the Bahamas. There was on the back of one boat, we had, like dozens of power converters that were going to cabling to connecting to me. And as I'm going underwater, I'm like, what's my biggest fear? Electrocution.
Yeah.
That's my biggest fear. Yeah, there's a lot of, places to go and, Discovery. I had a conversation with them a week or so ago, and they threw out a scenario for some other animal, and I'm like, oh, geez.
Why, hold on. Why does Discovery not have a show called Shark Week, Shark Tank, where all people, it's nothing but people pitching ideas for Shark Week?
May happen now, but yeah, it was interesting. And, I was, the thing that surprised me was like, it was different. So like, you're expecting, you're going to get people who are like, hey, this is really dumb, or this is stupid. You look weird or whatever. I'm like, yes, you said everything I just said, when I did this. But the reaction, there's so many people who are like, found it so relatable. Cause it's like, oh, cool. What would it be like if you tried to use tech and did this? What would it be like that? And that was the fun part was a way more positive reaction than I thought.
I mean, was, and that's a shoot, brothers. There was like real revising of that, like the tech story of this, even relative to how television is put together to be the most dramatic. Following along throughout this entire process, this was a real-time revision of how to make this as good as it possibly could be when they actually got to where the sharks were in Australia. Just insane.
Yeah. Yep. Cool. Let's do picks.
Hey man, I got a pick. It's a little show. Took a break, came back. I'm halfway through the premiere of season 4. It's a little show called Preacher, best show on television. Get bent, all other shows. Preacher's great.
I I have not seen the pilot or the premiere of the final season yet. But
I'm only halfway through it. This is a preemptive. This is a Team Preach moment.
My pick is Ghost Diver by Andrew Main.
Cheap shot.
Go check it
Not
out.
fair. Not cool. That's we
Nope.
all know that you didn't have a pick prepared, and you just.
Oh, sorry, Brian. Somebody likes to support our friends.
Oh, dude,
but
you son of a bitch!
Go ahead and finish Preacher. I'm sure it'll be great.
Oh, you're killing me. You're killing me.
Bryce?
I got a pick. Over the weekend, I started playing a new game, and I've actually kind of had this like weird mixed relationship with it, but I think I like it more than the parts that I don't like. You guys know Minecraft?
Never heard of it, but go on.
Well, they got after Minecraft came out, everyone made their own Minecraft, and then now in 2019, Square Enix is who do the Dragon Quest series have like their own Minecraft-y game called Dragon Quest Builders, and they've got a new sequel out, Dragon Quest Builders 2, and it's really surprisingly cool. You end up stranded on an island, and
You have to build a set of armor to fool great whites.
well, what's good about it is that there's like there's a big story to it. Like the monsters and the people of this land have like been indoctrinated to this religion where building things and creating things is sin, and destruction is the only game in town. And so it's this weird sort of
So you're being subversive. You're like the premillennial Gen X. Hey man, screw you, Dad. I'm gonna build.
Kinda, it's like a showing them the light, right? So you build them a toilet, and they're like, "Oh, building stuff is good." Actually, there is a surprising amount of poop in this game. Night soil.
Because phase 1 is you have to build a septic system, and then phase 2 is you only have one half bath, but you have 2 other bathrooms you have to fill out.
The people so far have been really happy with the clay pot. So
Okay.
but I think it's really cool when it opens up and it's like, hey, we need you to build a barn. Just these are the things that need to be in it. You can build it wherever. Go and do it. That stuff's really great.
So instead of the open world stay alive narrative of Minecraft, you have serving the public trust.
Right. It's not like the survival and combat stuff is very light. Is a very light touch, which I really enjoy. But the parts that I haven't really liked are when you are like wrapping up a story beat, and it's like, okay, for the next like 3 hours, you just need to do everything I tell you, and it's really annoying because it's like, I know you need me to go over here, and you need me to go get this thing, and it's all like fetch quests and stuff. But despite all that, I think when it's a really good building system. Like you play, like it feels intuitive, and you can get really creative with it. So I don't know. I think it's really good, and I'm not a fan of like the Dragon Quest stuff. So
Awesome.
yeah, Dragon Quest Builders 2.
Brian, your infantile selection of a comic book made into a TV series. I'm sorry.
Oh my God! Tell me
it's
you're
silly.
about to recommend The Boys. Tell me you just watched The Boys.
Well, the creator of this show is much more. It's the same guy who created Preacher, but that's not important. Yeah, I finished The Boys. I'm not giving you a half-assed, I haven't finished it yet pick. I'm giving you a fully formed, watched the whole thing pick. And the Boys, I loved The Boys. I love Boys. What can I say? I'm a big fan of The Boys.
Don't we all, folks?
Man, oh man,
Yeah,
dude.
Bryce, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
No, I'm so glad you watched all of it, man. It's so good, isn't it?
Yeah, it's I'm emotionally overcome here. What I liked about it was consistently good throughout. It didn't have like super big high moments in a way, like where it took itself too over the top or whatever. I mean, it was just every episode, everything was people acted, I would argue everybody acted smart within, maybe emotionally driven, but everybody acted smart, which is one of the things that I hate shows where things happen and you're like, the writers just couldn't figure out a better way to get us into this. I thought the subject matter I liked. I've heard, one reviewer is like, yeah, but it doesn't have a message. I'm like, oh, it has a message. This is, about, our core forms of motivation and revenge and friendship. There's really, really strong things there. And
and I think it's actually saying something. If you want to give it a capital I important message, I think it's really saying something about Hollywood. I think that the casting
Or
couch
sports.
moments and the idea, like, what if the Avengers were real and they actually worked for Disney, and Disney was only beholden to the shareholders, which, by the way, kind of reality.
Not to mention just the general theme of like power and celebrity.
Sure.
Well, I mean, I understand the Hollywood part, but a big part of it too is a lot of the way they're treated like athletes, and the idea that if you're no longer useful to them, they trade you away. If you're
That's
injured,
right.
they trade you away. You know, your value rises and falls by what your body can do.
So certainly with the race of the century or whatever they called it, like that. Yeah, you're right. That's another lens that everything.
But
I
think
mean,
all
juicing
these,
is
I
a
think they're
little
all,
literal part of the story. Yeah. Makes
Yeah, I
sense.
think it's all, and that's what I like. And then the thing, and I'm not getting into there's the premise is that, like, hey, what if superheroes aren't all really super? And there's a point where you realize this is actually, I think I might be terrified to live in a world where a Superman could be a real person, or the Flash or somebody, because that much power. You look at how we fear billionaires and people who have, that kind of economic power. And that's another sort of analogy of it is, when you have people who are untouchable, not just because of political protections, but physically untouchable because you can't police them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who Superman's the Supermans.
Yeah.
I have not watched The Boys, although I did watch about 4 episodes of it last night over the shoulder of the guy sitting next to me on the plane, who was watching it on his tablet with subtitles on.
How
So I
did
saw
it hold up?
Did it hold up?
Saw a few scenes where I was like, "Damn, it's a good show."
And I've heard from people who have read the books that it's a good adaptation of that story. It's not.
I've read
obviously
a few things that it takes the books probably a little bit further than the books went.
And I will say that it ends. If you had intended to just sort of tell one story, it could have ended punchier. But very clearly they're
setting
auditioning
up
for
a
a second
franchise.
second season, and I was totally satisfied with the way it ended.
The Boys.
Well,
cinematic
they
universe.
announced the second season before the show premiered.
Oh, I'm
That
I'm
sounds
almost
right.
certain we covered it on Cord Killers. Yeah,
Yeah,
So, which is exciting.
but
You
it's
know,
great. It's great.
it's a good show. The Boys.
Yeah, I'm excited because once where the second season, if you're expecting a complete tidy arc, you're not going to get that, but you'll get a full story. And I'm excited about, because like season 2, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm glad the fun did not stop, because this is going to become even more terrifying and fun.
Yeah.
So
And a lot of stuff happened. Like also, I mean, it's weird to say this, but I know I keep dipping my toes back into Lost, and The Boys just made me feel like, oh yeah, actually stuff is happening a lot. Like I'm not needing to
Unlike
worry
a certain other show that I just mentioned.
So
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, boys, it's been weird. Next time we will find out further on what happens with Prison Quest. Just so you know.
Yeah, that only happens on episodes where one of the hosts hasn't had a gigantic television success.
So we'll be getting a lot more of Prison Quest. It's been weird.
all right, good show. You guys need a break?
Yeah, I'll run to the restroom. I'm gonna check in on Fam.
Go for it.
BRB.
Fam.
Yeah, sup, fam?
What's up, Jerbs?
Oh, just
Oh,
just just out here, just doing things.
Mm-hmm. Can I? You're still playing Hearthstone, right?
Yes, I am.
I really think you would like Slay the Spire.
You want to know what? I actually walked by the artist on Artist Alley at Gen Con, because I
No
noticed
kidding.
there was a big Slay the Spire banner over him, but not knowing anything other than Bryce likes this. Literally, I walked by it and I was like, should I get something like a little thing for Bryce?
Aw.
And then I was like, I have no idea what the game
What it
is
would
or
be.
what any of the art is. And so that was like 2 seconds, and then I just kind of kept walking. But there was a moment in which I was like, if I had played Slay the Spire and I knew cool things about it, I would think about buying a thing for price. But
It's
I
the
didn't.
thought that counts.
Exactly. It's credit for the thought that counts.
Mhm.
That's really what I want to get across here.
But because do you get into any of like the deck building stuff in Hearthstone? Because I know Brian just likes playing someone else's deck and playing, which is why I don't know that he would like Slay the
So-
Spire much.
Yeah, I mean, I like it. Really, I primarily Hearthstone for me is a mobile game. So it's like my job is, because I'm a functioning adult with a job, to buy cards that I can make cool decks, and then have other people figure out what the cool decks are, specifically into my playstyle, which because it's 99.9999% mobile, is like fast. So I only play like certain kinds of decks, not like the like, oh, I gotta figure out like how to get off this crazy combo that really makes me try to remember all the cards that I played, which is really better with like a deck tracker and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I would like. I think as a game, I would really like it. If they do a mobile version, then I'd be very
It's on-
excited.
Well, and so it's on Switch, so it works with the touchscreen. So I would be very surprised.
Oh no! If
Yeah.
it's a Switch game, then yeah, no, I'll try it out on the Switch because
I'd be very
actually been
surprised if they
for-
don't make a touchscreen version, and maybe with a few more improvements. But yeah, because it's like that. It's like that thought process of like, what do I do? How do I make this stuff work? But it's smaller, so you can do.
Yeah,
you do it a
I
lot.
do like the deck building stuff. The Hearthstone stuff that I don't like deck building wise is when you have to just put together like your full like sight unseen. You're putting together your full 30 card deck.
Yeah.
I like it better when they're like, oh well, as you go along, we're just gonna keep giving you more cards. And
Oh, you're
so that
talking
way-
about the difference between like a tavern brawl and a real life just deck.
I love the new the thing. I don't know if they're still doing it, but the brawl that they did where it was you were like you started out with 5 cards. and
Yeah.
you was getting like 3 cards and 3 cards. That was awesome. Those villains were great. I had a great time. All right, here I'm gonna be your BRB.
I was extolling the virtues again of Slay the Spire.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
'Cause
I'm
I know
surprised
you like to play-
it's not on mobile or anything.
Yeah, I'm sure it's just I would really be surprised if it doesn't come to mobile because it really works well on the touchscreen. But I was mentioning to Justin because I know you like to play like other people or like you like to do decks that have already been kind of made. You
Yeah,
don't do a lot
I
of deck
derive
building.
much like Justin expressed. I think what he just described is pretty much the way Slay the Spire works, where you go piecemeal at a time. But the anxiety of feeling like I don't know where to begin with all this,
Yeah.
which to be honest,
Which is like it's a real thing of getting started because you're like there are a couple of different ways I could make like I know the hero that I have, but I could be offensive heavy. I could be slow and poison it. Like
Right.
it is tough to make that decision at first.
that is out of the 4 years that I've been playing Hearthstone, it's really only been in the last year that I feel like I have a sense of how that part of the game goes, and that's only because I spent the $20 to do hsreplay.net, where it gives you like, hey, these are the best
Oh, the
performing
statistical
archetypes, and feel free to tweak any of these. But it's like having that linchpin, that sort of home base of understanding, like, okay, in general, this is the archetype that's doing well. I wish it had more of blank and less of whatever.
Yeah.
What do you guys want to talk about after things?
I've got a fairly significant question in that I stepped away from Twitter for a week, and upon stepping back in, was not pleased with the things that I saw. I don't know. We could talk about that, and along the way, I don't know how deep we want to go into it, but part of the reason I stepped away from Twitter was that we had the family reunion, but also a friend of mine died, and I was just like, I'm going to step away for a bit. And there was a lot of peace that came from that excuse. So I don't know. We could talk about like just in general, like how real to be with your audience, because after 5 or 6 days, I finally tweeted one thing, and I thought it was fairly beige, fairly uncontroversial, and instantly 2 or 3 people decided to make that a punching bag, and I'm like, weird flex, but okay, you know. So I don't know.
I agree. I think I think a conversation about
Mabombo Cube. There was a trick to the shark show. The trick was on the sharks. The whole goal was to use the techniques of an illusionist to try to fool the sharks into not seeing Andrew Mayne. Basically, using the techniques of illusion to create stealth armor.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd asked if they wanted me to like do like magic or demonstration stuff throughout to sort of build up to it. And they're like, no, we just want to focus on the tech. I'm like, cool. Yeah. Like, I get to do a magic show. We're going to do a card trick. It's good. I mean, I've never actually done a card trick in any of my magic shows, but that's not neither here nor there, you know. Yeah. So
it was like a really, 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 really high stakes backyard magic show.
Yes.
Underwater wrestling.
Yeah. What's funny is, as you said that, I was like, backyard magic show and high stakes. And then I thought, oh, wait, I definitely did a magic show in the backyard of Cargill for his 30th birthday party. And only in retrospect would it be perceived as high stakes now that he's, you know, the writer of Doctor Strange.
And he is also famed for eating people that displease him.
True fact.
Alrighty. Well, if you guys are good to go, then I'll catch you in.
Sorry, I'm a reality guy, Brian. I don't run in the circles you do with Hollywood screenwriters and stuff.
Killing me.
Exactly. No, he's salt of the earth. You know, it's just he puts his pants on one leg at a time so he can complain about the catering at the various different television premieres that he's into.
Alrighty, well, we'll do After Things in 3, 2.
Hello and welcome to After Things. I'm Andrew Mayne, joined by Justin Robert Young.
Hello, friends.
Mr. Brian Brushwood.
Ahoy, ahoy.
Mr. Bryce Castillo.
Oh, that's me. Hello.
The way you'll know the order of who I'm going to call is whoever takes a drink first. Justin took a swig. I'm like, I'm going to call him, but he was too fast. It's too fast.
Well, and the second level of this chess game is knowing to fake out, act like you're drinking, and to be like, oh, good.
I know. And then Brian spits out a bunch of confetti and says his name perfectly.
So I'm gonna start off by like, well, my Friday night. Okay.
Yes.
Friday night for me is 15 minutes before the show's airing. My girlfriend goes over and sits down on the couch in front of the TV.
For the uninitiated, we're talking about Andrew Mayne, Ghost Diver, one of the very few named your first name in the name itself of the episode.
Because I have so much global brand name recognition.
You do now, man. Congratulations.
As seen on CNET. The New York Post, TMZ, Fox News, Drudge Report.
So, yes, all true. So she's sitting down, ready to watch, and she's like, "Oh, what are you gonna watch?" I'm like, "We don't have cable." And I get a look like. You mean we're not going to be able to watch the thing you made? And I'm like, yeah, we saw a rough cut a while ago. And then I'm like, maybe I need to fix this right now. And so I went and signed us up for YouTube TV, which had Discovery Channel. We're able to play it and watch it. But I'm like, man, you know, I was just, Zed friend's like, oh, you're going to do a watch party? I'm like, no. And this is not me, but I'm like, but I will be on Twitter, because what I do want to do is I want to engage with people, you know, as the thing's there, because I've been telling, you know, fans and friends and stuff like, hey, check it out. So I hopped on, you know, I tweeted during before, and then about like 5 minutes before it aired, I'm like, hey, I'm going to be on Twitter answering your questions and stuff, you know, and if you have questions, let me know. And I'm just going to be live tweeting. So that's what I did. I just live tweeted the special as it was going on, and my plan was just to sort of live tweet it blind without, you know, knowing what's on camera. But it was fun. It was a really, really, really fun way to engage. And as I did this, I would, of course, go check other reactions and other stuff for it. And here's the thing. I've been on Twitter, like Justin and Brian, for over a decade, okay? We've all been involved pre-YouTube in other forms of online engagement and stuff. So I would say that our skins are a lot thicker than other people who do things publicly. And we know, hey, if you get 70% I like what you're doing and 30% I don't like what you're doing, that's great. That's a wonderful day. That's great, Or if you're doing something really different and weird and you're getting 70 or 80%, this is horrible, but you get, 10% like, no, this is actually cool. Great. Some people like it. Some people get it. And I think that's kind of where we come from, is sort of this idea of, we know not everybody's going to like, you can't like everything. You see like, 70% of people don't like Britney Spears. 30% do. In her heyday, that was a lot of albums. That was great, and some of the things you love the most. So I think that's the healthy attitude, is you go into it going that. And, when you do anything publicly, you hop on a Periscope stream or a live stream or a Twitch stream, you're going to find out very quickly, wow, there's some, there are people who just are offering you an opinion. They don't like, what you are, or what you look, or what you're doing. And that's going to happen. Then you get just really trollish people, whatever. And sometimes people point out things that are true or whatever. They're like, oh yeah, no, I did stumble through that, or I didn't prepare or whatever. But anyhow, point is, I go into there doing that. So I had an awesome night Friday, and I had, a lot of people loved it. A couple people were like, what is this idiot doing? This is dumb, whatever. And that's fine. That's what I want, because I'm trying to do something different. So for me, it's not like
the magic phrase for those people is sounds like it wasn't for you. End of discussion.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. I was, to be honest with you, I was preparing for a more negative reaction.
Yeah.
Because...
I think, we can get into that, since it was super well received, which is great. And by the way, also the people that are going to say, hey, this is weird or whatever, I don't like this, that comes with the platform.
Yep.
Like part of being on a gigantic, super anticipated, highly branded thing. And Shark Week is always offered a diversity of content. Some people like a certain version of it. Some people like another kind of version of it. This was obviously not like either of those. This was very much its own thing, which is great. But going into it, I know that you were a little trepidatious, because this
and the reason is because whenever you're doing something involving sharks, which are threatened, many of them are threatened species, they're endangered, and they're facing a threat from the environment and what have you, and people in perception of this. There are people who, a lot of shark advocates out there, among myself and people I worked with, but there are other people who are nervous of this. And watching, this guy do this weird sort of thing around these creatures, there is this, hey, what is this really about? And also my fear was like, I didn't want people thinking that like I'm instructing divers on how to protect yourself, because I want to be very clear. We don't know fully what worked, what didn't work. And I made the argument, like, camouflage may not be the right idea, because in some cases you want the sharks to know you're there. You just want them to stay clear of you and whatnot. There was a lot of things that were like, we tried to address those as much as we can, and the actual 40 minutes of airtime to try to explain this. So that was a big part of my fears, the misunderstanding of it. And that's why I went and did CNET, and I did this sort of more detailed thing. And I've tried to be out there like, this is what it is, this is what it's not. And, and we'll see. There may be more follow through on what'll happen. Other people might be like, this is horrible, you're evil, whatever. May happen. But anyhow, but my point I wanted to get at was I could, there weren't anywhere as many as I thought, but there were, negative comments. And it's like, it's fine. It's fine. Whenever you're doing on a big platform, that's fine. The challenge, of course, though, is that, like, the internet can be, sometimes you see the worst of people, though. And I didn't see that. But sometimes you see things and you realize sometimes these people are just impulsively tweeting. They're saying something. Sometimes they're not. I get people who just find errors in a book and will tweet at me like, Andrew Mayne, your books, you have all these punctuation errors and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, yeah, this is true. And it's fine. You can say that. But it's like, you're like, I don't think they realize that they come across as mean in that sense, sometimes people do realize they're being mean. And that's just sort of kind of when it opened this up, because we live, like for us, we live so much of our life in public and stuff, I'm more private than I think you guys are by, one, just by the amount of time I spend less time in front of people, but you guys are much more open and out there with stuff. And I think that, and I've seen with you guys in particular, people forget you're real people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, like I've worked, and we've talked about this on the show. I've worked really hard to make, especially knowing that the YouTube platform had been, for 11 years now. For the majority of that, it wasn't entirely mine to control. That incentivized me to really double down on expanding the Twitter platform or whatever. But it's interesting because now the Twitter platform has gotten big enough that quite literally I can't seem to say anything. If I say anything interesting, full stop, then there's gonna be somebody who wants to make a project out of trying to get my goat. And and I don't know what the right responses are, because the right responses in a performance situation are you deal with a heckler either by shutting them down or diverting their energy and making them a fan, giving them a job. There's all these things you can do. But in this I don't know, drive-by shouting out the window culture on Twitter, it's a little bit more challenging. I took a break from Twitter for a week because a friend of mine passed away, and so I was like, I'm going to unplug for a bit. And when I came back after 5 days, it was to tweet out a photograph of I found to be a fairly beige platitude written on the side of a taco truck about like, hey man, you only got so much time in your life. Don't do something you hate for a living. Get out there and make a dent in the universe or whatever. I if anything, my hesitation before I hit send was that it was too traditional, too cutesy. Might as well, cross stitch it and hang it up in the kitchen. And instead, I got this white privilege, oh, it must be easy for you. Some of us have to work jobs we hate. And I was like, all right, I don't even. So and what's funny is, all of the.
Yeah, boys.
No. I don't know what the right response is when your platform gets big enough that you're not just like, honesty certainly matters for the platform, but at some level you're also representing a brand and an ideal, and weirdly, like the number one riskiest thing you can do if you're concerned about losing Twitter followers, the riskiest thing you could do is tweet. And that is what I'm wrestling with, is because if what I care about is keeping all the Twitter followers, and same thing goes for YouTube. YouTube is the same platform where every single time we launch a new episode, we immediately lose subscribers. I don't know. I don't know what the right answer is or the right way to interpret it, except for like, I know that on a personal level, I've trained myself to, we've talked about this before, read the words and then say, you don't mean that. and then say, what you really mean is you had a bad day and you want attention. Let's figure out a way to give you your attention, I guess.
But I mean, I don't know. Maybe this is trying to cut it too dry, but like, don't like I don't engage. Like I am trying to like not engage with that stuff. I certainly don't get as much of it as you, but I know that there are just some people online.
You don't get that kind of vile engagement on your dirty sixpence none the richer tweets.
Okay, so that was mostly you. So
I was one heck.
But like whether it's dealing with like spammers in the Discord or just people on Twitter where trying to pick a fight or disagreeing but in a kind of hostile way, like you don't just like you're it's different than like being on stage and there's a heckler, or even you get the phone call and it's a kid who wants your time. Like that barrier is like infinitely more high than someone sending a tweet. And so to give someone attention and your emotional energy,
And
that,
I think
that makes you upset. Like
there's-
you
but
gotta
there's-
you gotta shut it off. You can't even give it the time of day. Mute them and go, like, don't block them. Mute them and just go about your
But-
day.
I think that there is kind of two folds to it,
Mhm.
where number one, there's the like, okay, well, is this good for Brian the man? Right? Like, is this whatever endorphins kind of come in from knowing that people like what you do, or bad feelings that come from people saying that they hate what you do, or something else mean? Like, that's one question. The second question is, what's good for Brian Brushwood, the brand? Right? What's good for Andrew Main, the brand? What's good for Justin Robert Young, the brand? And I think from Brian's perspective, I can certainly see where you have this like calculus in your head where you're like, well, look, if I can't just turn into like the most bland platitude guy, like if I can't just be like The Rock, like, it's 6 a.m., rise and grind, I'm clanging and banging, like, then what am I doing on this website? Because
Yeah, and it's saying he got heat last week because he made a comment about Prime Minister Boris Johnson sharing the last name, like, oh, my congratulations to my cousin, joking, congratulating the now head of state of the United Kingdom. Outrage because he's a Tory, and it was just this yelling at him for a polite congratulations to somebody who got put into this position, and it's like, holy cow, like that's why you see why he tries to keep his brand as middle of the road as possible, because he wants to appeal to everybody.
he wants everybody to go see Hobbs and Shaw in theaters right now and have no reservations that you are supporting the career of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Yeah, and look, from my perspective, like, we've had the last few weeks as the 2020 election has kind of gotten up to speed. We've had really good download months for politics. I would hope and expect that it continues to go, but with it, man, does it come with a creeping anxiety for me that, like, the more people listen and the more it gets plugged into the larger world of political discussion, I know I'm going to run afoul of, certainly more people, and certainly more possibly even personalities for which conflict is the currency. And I very deliberately tried to keep my brand to be something where, like, hey, look, I'm here to be the referee, so you can yell that the referee's judgment is wrong, but that's where I'm coming from. But I know that doesn't save me. Like, I'm like an erstwhile ghost diver. This is there for camouflage, but I know that as soon as somebody comes for me, it will save me in no way. And it's part of why I've tried to reevaluate why I want to be on Twitter and what I want to say when I'm there, because some platforms I really want to show my personal life, and others I don't. And in fact, like, these days, I don't know if I want to do it at all. Like, I don't know if I want to talk about when I'm happy and when I'm sad, or what makes me happy. Like, if anything, like, I always want to shout out my friends. Like, I was very happy the day of the Ghost Diver thing while I was on my way to Gen Con to do it. And in retrospect, I kind of even feel worse that I was given a talk at the same time. I couldn't do more. But beyond that, like, I don't know what the point of that of social media beyond branding is for me right now. And even then, like, I don't know what Justin the man gets out of it. I know Justin Robert Young, the brand, gets more awareness that my podcast is available on all streaming platforms and you should go listen to it. And this is what you're going to get. But, and everything that feeds into that. Oh, and trolling Bryce. And his
Trolling
bad-
me on Twitter.
Like, but other than that, like, I don't know. Like, I don't know how much access I want to give to people.
Well, I think that's worth thinking about. Is like I know for me, Twitter is, I want to share fun things. I'm going to tell you things I like. Rarely I might be like, it wasn't, but almost never. Like, I'm trying to think, like, when I've ever, like, one, I'm sensitive as a creator and whatever people do, but, like, if something's negative, then other people will be out there with it. But I will, if somebody asks me my opinion about what do you think of this movie, whatever, then I'll direct reply to, I'll reply to them, maybe something about that, not too negative, but I don't ever, if I don't like what somebody's doing, I'm never going to send an to a name and tell them they suck or whatever. Because to me, it's bad manners. It's just bad manners. I don't talk politics because I have this radical thought. I have nothing to say that isn't already out there, and I have nothing to say when it comes to politics that isn't that is insightful, that somebody else hasn't said it more eloquently. And also, nobody's following me for politics or those things. It's like I don't go there, and I just stay away. Not because I'm too afraid. I'm like, I don't want to add to the noise. We have enough people like, well, I've got to tell the internet this thing, and it's like, if they know, they know.
I saw a really good tweet a few months back, basically saying like, isn't it really awful that if you are successful at Twitter is impossible to use?
Yes.
And so like from alongside that, because I'm also like just like I don't even know what I'm doing with Twitter anymore, but the one thing I am trying to do is try to be good noise, or like not necessarily just in terms of only responding, but also replying to the people that I follow and like putting good stuff out there, right? Like, oh, that's great. Like even just whether it's small platitudes, whether it's positive, contributions to whatever. Like I don't know that. At least if I'm using it that way, then it feels like I'm actually getting the social out of it and not just trying to have it be this weird branding platform.
How far off do you think we are from Twitter offering plugins such that third-party developers could come in and essentially create free apps where it's like, who do you perceive that you want to project out to the world? Is it somebody generally positive, generally this, that, or whatever? And then you continue to use Twitter however you want, and you get little nudges. Maybe on one hand it'll say, hey, your friend, a bunch of people are talking about, he just had a new project that came out. If you've seen it, would you like to say something positive to him? Dan Trachtenberg, the first episode of The Boys was delightful. Good job directing that. Mm-hmm. And then likewise, maybe you are tweeting and it just does a second switch thing where it's like, according to our algorithms, it looks like you're saying something negative. Are you 100% sure, A, B, or C? Do you want to go now? Do you want to wait 5 minutes and then hit the switch? Or do you want to, rewrite it now? Like,
the sentiment analysis is actually, it's being experimented on. Oh, is Facebook or some other platforms are now putting that in to say, hey, this comes across negative or whatever. And I don't know, I think we could all benefit from maybe knowing like, hey, this is mean. And I think the part of the problem though is like, I mean, we had two horrific tragedies take place this weekend.
3.
And there was no people from all points of view were ready to opine on this and tell us what we need to think about this or whatever. And a lot of anger, a lot of finger pointing, a lot of frustration, goes on, which happens, with any kind of event. And I think that a lot of it feels like a lot of people come preloaded, just ready, they're already weapons ready, just waiting for, I'm ready for my target. My target appears, I just want to unload. And I think that's part of the problem though, is that people have this anger that they're ready to direct. And maybe that would be helpful. I think maybe like, hey, do you want to wait a little while before you scream? Just because once you scream, you can't take back that scream.
I don't think Twitter itself ever does that, or any social, like for them, they don't want people to stop using the service. They don't want to kick people off the service. They want more people to be using it more often. I wouldn't be surprised if there were already marketing firms or that there are tons of like these analytic apps that did something similar to that.
Sure.
But if the platform holders did it, it would be, you would hear all the thought police.
Man, I'll tell you what, man, I would pay for an API that here's what's astonishing to me, and this happened in this case. The person who was taking me to task, shouting white privilege for, saying, hey, maybe don't hate your job. The moment you go looking at their tweets, they more often than not, you read and it's like, oh, wait, to them, Twitter is a yelling engine. It's their opportunity to rage at the world and just hurl, shit-filled water balloons. Sorry for the language. And then
So then
and
you
then,
mute that person. and they disappear.
well, exactly. But like, I would love it if there was an API that just showed a troll face where it's like, hey man, 95 out of the last 100 tweets they had was negative against X, Y, or Z or whatever. And then it's like, okay, well then now I know that they're not even worth responding to or engaging. Like, what they want is attention, and I don't have to give that. And in fact, I actually regretted trying to have a sincere conversation with this person. So I don't know.
The other thing you
I
might
do, and just to Bryce, your point of view on Brian, I do think that there's a scale to this. Like it is one thing if you are muting a person that's being a butt, right? Or and I've done that periodically. Somebody obviously is just coming at me with bad faith because I don't have. I mean, I got like 30K followers, which is more than an average user, but certainly not at the volume that either Andrew or Brian work with. But man, when you get that persistent, like, and this was one of the a very valuable social experiment for me maybe over a year ago. But we had some night attack bit where the stakes were for a week. If I lost, people I would demand that people call me an embarrassment all week, right? And so that happened. I lost the game, and people started tweeting like, "Oh, that I'm an embarrassment." And literally, like, there was a point where it's like, okay, I know it's the bit, right?
Mhm.
I'm the one who set up the bit. I set up the stakes, and then next thing you know, you just get it, like. And it's like Chinese water torture. There's just some element where it's like the first few days you're like, look at that engagement. Everyone's playing along. This is great. And then you just catch that flinch reaction of like, no, screw you. Like yeah, I'm living my life. Who are you? Oh, wait, no, they're doing the bit.
They're doing the
And you
thing.
just don't realize that that's there. And like, that's the only time that I've experienced something where along the lines of what, Brian and Andrew get just by the numbers. Right. So if there's one person who comes out of pocket for me, right, or 0.5 or like 0.25 if people have less followers, then it's like that's 10, 20, 30, maybe 100 people that are just going to launch something that is anywhere between destabilizing in its weirdness, right, or outright hostile.
Mhm.
And at a certain point, like that gets into like, user the person, not user the brand. Like you're like, oh my God, like that's kind of sucks. And even if you're muting all of them, like what happens when you just keep muting and then they just keep showing up? Like that's another element of psychological, like, okay, this is my life? My life is just keep pushing this troll rock up the hill, only for me to say, like,
which is doubly
is the day, and you're like, there's people who work at night, like they nap during the day.
which is doubly tough because winning over trolls was the recipe for success for the first 20 years of my career, and it's only now that the scale has changed where it's like I can't save all the starfish.
Well, and also like because you've made a point of saying that you like want to reply to everyone who tweets you, and
I want to. I'm letting go
But-
of that. I guess that's
but that's
a
the
big
thing, is,
part
like,
of this.
Yeah, that's your own conviction, and I don't think it holds up even for anybody. at this
I think
point.
it did for a while, but I think I'm evolving beyond it just as a matter of scale.
A week ago, and I don't remember, Elon Musk replied to me on Twitter. Yes, that was me that Elon Musk replied to, everybody. I had, I'm like, and I had a lot of people like that. I got more negative reaction from that, be like, you just got the Bluetooth slap down. How does it feel? How does it feel to have Elon Musk read my tweet and respond to me? Really good. Next question. But I had some people who are like who are fans of him, but I'm like, most of the people here, they're like me. They're fans of him. And for a moment, they're thinking I'm complaining or whatever. And I would go, like, if somebody's replying and mentioning me in that reply or whatever, I would go check their Twitter feed. If they were a reasonable person, a funny person, I would make a funny comment back or whatever. And I had several people follow me from that and then say, oh, cool. Friday night, I had a couple people that were like, this is ridiculous or whatever. And I'd write and I looked at their Twitter feed. I'm like, oh, this is not like Brian points out. You get the angry tweeter. We're like, oh, this guy has 7 tweets and they're all angry. I'm not going to respond to that person because that's just a whole ball of a problem there. But people have a sense of humor, and I had a couple people I'd be like, yeah, you're right. Like I'd be like, what is this idiot thinking? And I'm like, thing going through my mind. And then next thing you know, this was actually great, fan. But you can't do that with everybody. And I would do it like, oh, sense of humor, they seem they might be cool. But you get to a point where there's just the volume is hard. But you do see like that the hate accounts, they only exist for people to hate. And, there's the other thing too. It's like, and I'm like, do I do this? And that is, a lot of people don't think they're being negative. They think they're being internet cop, And I think we saw some examples of that this weekend. I think a famous astronomer said something, and he was trying to be, make a statement that was technically correct,
but maybe poorly timed.
Maybe not quite the bedside manner that many were expecting.
Kind of ambiguously motivated.
You go like, and the problem is like, you're another voice right now of a bunch of people shouting because we're angry or upset. And is that what you want to be? Maybe, I don't know. Maybe we should all be more engaged. I don't know, but I certainly know that if we're trying to police other people, it may not feel like policing to them.
Yeah. And I would say, because this happens at different scales, but everybody gets some form of this, right? Twitter does have some filters in terms of what notifications you can have it give you. So if you can say hey, if they didn't even upload an avatar to the site, don't send mentions to me. Make people verify email addresses, or there are
these
some
heuristics, right?
There's some quality filter filter switches in Twitter that you can actually set in your settings. So well,
that's interesting. Wait, in the default Twitter app, you could say if they never got past the egg stage, they don't exist.
Oh yeah,
wow.
So it's under notifications here. So you can do just the general quality filter for quote unquote low quality, but there are also advanced filters. So whether they follow you or not, if they're new, if they have the default profile.
Great.
You didn't know about these?
No,
it is crazy to me.
Well,
you should definitely look into these.
Look, you're talking to the guy whose stated goal was to talk to everybody who wanted to talk to him. Yeah. So,
well,
of course, Brian. Since and this is just between all of us that are verified here. You can set up that you only see verified responses. So you could totally filter out the hoi polloi.
Well, I mean, I don't know what you're saying, but I personally like receiving responses from Bryce. I don't see what the big deal is.
All right, so as of I got your phone number. No, that's been the other thing with Justin uninstalling Twitter from his phone. Hey, do you still have Twitter uninstalled from your phone?
I do. However, I've become far too lenient on the fact that Twitter also has a mobile browser version.
That's caused me to just text Justin more, and it's like this cool, I don't know, just text your friends more, I don't know. I'm just saying, be good to the world. So.
Yeah, it's hard, and there is a psychological toll to it. But I don't know. I still believe in it. I still want it to be a good thing. I still enjoy it sometimes. I still like seeing what my friends have to say. But I don't know. I don't know. I don't know that the platform. I mean, here's the dark thought that I had yesterday about this. Awful. Among the darkest days that you can think of in terms of tragedy, in many years for me, right? And watching all this unfold on television as I'm trying to make my way back home, and I have nothing to do but stare at 24-hour news networks, right? It was really, 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 really sad. By the metrics, I'm sure it was a banner day for Twitter and for Facebook and for all these other platforms that literally are advertising platforms that only care about volume. Because guess what? It got to be the place where everybody was expressing all of their pain and having all of their fights. And then even, we just mentioned the as yet unnamed astrophysicist who then became the #1 trending topic. It birthed its own story, as the platform is wont to do. So now all of a sudden it's a creation engine for more impressions and more ad slots. And it's is that
good?
Yeah, is that something that we're cool? Like, is that when we all understood that, hey, more communication is better? And I still do believe that more communication is better. I think there is a net positive to all these things that we are talking about in general in terms of internet communication. But like, that just grossed me out. It just made me feel so disgusting to be like, literally tweeting or liking or retweeting anything is contributing to the idea that at the end of the year, they're going to look at all their traffic throughout it, and there's going to be a big spike on one of the darkest, most horrifying days that I can remember.
And that's partly how I've talked a lot about fake news on Trending Lemon a lot, but just even if you think you're being a counter narrative force for someone trying to create untrue quote unquote fake news. If you think that tweeting as actually this is not real, or I can't believe, like contributing even to that counter narrative still benefits the initial narrative. Like there's the initial wave, and everything after it's going to be sourced to the first one, and there's no stopping it. There's never a counter wave of everyone saying, oh, actually this claim was not real, and more people know about it not being real than being told it was real.
JC Calhoun says, isn't that true for newspapers and TV? No, not really. I mean, like, your ratings are bigger, but you've already sold the ads, right? Like, it's not like there is a larger generation. There's more money that came in on that day because they were able to serve more ads.
I disagree. I think that cable news desperately hopes for exactly the type of tragedy that we just experienced. Something not so bad as 9/11, where you would have to not run ads, but something that you could run ads, and all of a sudden, your ratings go up.
It's how Nancy Grace got a show.
Yeah,
yes.
let me take that back. Like it's not to say that there is not a tendency to create a summer of sharks, right? Like that is.
Hey.
Which, by the way, I've thought a lot about. Yeah, you know that the Summer of the Shark was all cable news had before 9/11. Like that was the crappy show that they were trying to pitch just before they got the white hot diamond of success for cable news.
But at least it's not instant. Like at least it takes. You can criticize television news, and believe you me, I do it on the regular about being cynical in terms of driving certain stories. But and certainly there's enough of that can fall on the shoulders of newspapers as well. But at least it's not instant. It's not like just immediately farming the outrage in real time.
Well, I mean, we could split hairs on that, but I mean, I think that in the 24-hour news cycle, we see, so I was on Fox News Friday morning, right?
Yeah.
And this is going to sound, I had the same thoughts when, this is horrible. No, I had the same thoughts when we were looking at getting the cover of Magic Magazine. Yeah. I'm like, man, I hope nobody famous dies this month because I will get bumped and I won't get the cover. Well, somebody famous did pass away in Magic, but it was too late to get the cover, so I got the cover. Friday, I'm like, man, I hope nothing bad happens, obviously, because I hope nothing bad happens, but also the news cycle for Friday is going to be all about the thing that happens. It's going to be all about the thing that happens because, we before Twitter, before Facebook is, that was the, what was the book? The like cult, Climate of Fear or whatever. It was just all about like news exists to scare us. News exists to scare us. And you look at when they have scare stories at work, and things like that. And then when all of a sudden those narratives don't work, they try to find the next thing. But now they don't, but to your point, Justin, it's like, yeah, now you don't need, people sitting in the newsroom making this stuff up. They just let us scare ourselves.
Yeah. And also it's like, and again, let me make this very clear. I have unlimited criticism for the culture of 24-hour news and cable news in general. I can go on and on about that, but like, it would be the difference of, oh, well, here's this awful thing that's happening. And instead of there being and I guess this does happen on cable news to a certain extent, of like, all right, well, let's bring these two people to argue. But then it really gets into a fight, and now they cancel all other news, and now they're just following these people fighting, and then other people jumping off. It just turns into this gigantic Anchorman spectacle that now becomes its own self-feeding thing. And now let's bring in more people to think about, I don't know, was that a dirty blow that happened before? And here's another gigantic monologue about it. There's just like, there is a self-perpetuating element to it that is, I don't know. I don't know how healthy it is.
Yeah, I'm gonna crit, and maybe it's out of place here too, but like, and again, I'm not gonna pick on one news organization just to say, oh, they're it all, but like, like 2 weeks ago, major news outlet brought Richard Spencer on to give commentary.
Yeah.
And you're like, of all the people in the world, of all the university professors and book writers and people to talk about white supremacy and the problem of that and all of this, why did you bring him on? Why did you bring, maybe because you're not known for like, it was just frustrating. I'm saying I don't want to, and it's not out of the playbook for other news. I don't want to pick on one, but I was like, man, like this is part of the thing is like not outraged enough. We're going to outrage you. And I don't know.
Sure. I mean, there's no bad press, right? All press is
well,
yeah,
press.
but he's a guy that nobody pays attention to until you put a microphone in front of him. He only exists because there's a microphone in front of him, and I guess that's my complaint.
Sure. And that's the thing is that it's like, it turns into that Bart Simpson meme where the entire class is turning around saying, say the thing, and then he says the thing and everyone reacts, right? It is like you are bringing that dude on camera to he might as well, for all intents and purposes, he's a Lawrence Welk act where he's spinning plates. Like you know exactly what is happening, you know exactly what's going to happen, you know exactly what kind of furrowed brow you're expecting your anchor to say, and now the measure of the anchor is going to be how much you hold this guy accountable, and it's like, what is this really adding to the title?
In the 80s and the 90s, conservative groups would try to change what was on television and would protest, and they would create these councils or these groups and say, we're this parents group, instead of using Christian groups, Christian conservative groups. And they said, let's get rid of the name Christian out of the group, and we'll call ourselves the such and such family group or whatever. And you'd see these people on talking heads and stuff, and you'd find out it was, one guy working out of his office. He didn't have this vast membership. They didn't have this stuff, but it was a talking head, and it gave them an outsized representation. And we never knew that because the people putting the show together didn't want to point out, like, yeah, no, there's nobody, but it'll give us a great talking point.
I mean, like it would be the same as me going to speak about, representing the Magic Symposium. Oh, the Professor Emeritus of the Magic Symposium is here to give his opinion on whether or not you should teach fire reading on television. It's like, well, what is the Magic Symposium? Well, it's me. It's a really good name that has the word symposium in it.
Sure.
Yeah, and that's the problem, and we don't know. And so you see other people who are stoking fear and hate and stuff like this, and you find out like, yeah, no, they don't have a large group, they don't have this, they have your microphone.
Well, and to bring it back to social media, like there's not even that barrier anymore. It can just be any person getting quote tweeted by a large account, and then suddenly that person, whether they wanted to or not, whether they meant to or not, however much commitment they had in that tweet, suddenly becomes the other. There's a really good tweet. Every day, someone is the main character of Twitter, and you do not want to be the main character of Twitter.
Yeah, so true.
I think that they there will be, and then they fade. But then sometimes people like media can drag these people back up and say, let's. This person now will become a thing, and you're like, well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm not advocating nobody should have a voice or whatever, but it just certainly, it's an industry that needs voices and needs to stoke our anger.
Well, damned if we didn't fix a lot about Twitter. You're welcome, Ev Williams.
Ev Williams.
Well,
is it Williams? Ev Lloyd? Ev Lloyd is
Jack Dorsey?
No.
Ev Williams, Jack Dorsey.
Yeah.
Jack Dorsey and isn't it Ev Williams? What's his last name?
There was an Ev at some point, but yeah. Dorsey's the man now.
All right.
Ev Williams, you were right.
Oh, okay, good. I mean,
it's
not
weird.
not that it helped.
Yeah.
It was still an awkward thing to say.
Because
apparently.
people know Jack, right? I think that's the
Yeah.
thing. People know Jack.
Here's the good news, is that this platform, which oftentimes can result in sacrifice and suffering, is certainly not being run by somebody who deliberately puts himself through multi-day fasts and getting eaten up by insects and traveling around the world to put himself in the most uncomfortable positions that he can. Like, at least it's not something where he's projecting any kind of suffering and sadness out into the world. So it might make us better philosophically. Who knows?
I mean, I have no problem with the platform itself, and in fact, I'm I think, like, I don't think the platform should be policing stuff. I don't think, because that's a game that we see that Osama bin Laden became an exile in Saudi Arabia because he was very critical of the crown of Saudi Arabia and had some, we'll call them horrific ideas, but maybe not particularly more horrific than was there. So he gets exiled. They kick him out of Saudi. There's no freedom of speech. There was none of that there. So what's your alternative when your speech makes you an enemy of the state and it's equal to, I don't know, becoming a violent terrorist? Maybe I'll become a violent terrorist. And so we took a guy who was a monster, little monster, and that country exiled him, and he became a big monster because when your words were considered as bad as violent acts, then people will do violent acts.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that the question is necessarily the platform policing, but certainly creating a better way that you can enjoy the platform in the way that you want to enjoy it is a pursuit worth pursuing, I guess.
Well, yeah, and I guess my point is, let's not look to the people running the platforms to do that. Let's not look to them to, they'll find this. They won't, as you pointed out, they're incentivized not to. And I'm saying, let's look inwardly and go like, okay, maybe I don't need to be yelling shut up as loudly. Maybe I can just ignore. Maybe I can hear things that are controversial or stupid or whatever. And I don't have to feed the outrage machine because whatever,
Yeah.
It's idealistic, but.
All right, gentlemen, I got to go do show prep pretty soon. My pick is, again, it's The Boys. That was my pick, and if you thought you heard Andrew picking it, you're wrong because it's my pick.
My pick is, again, Andrew Maine's Ghost Diver because I like my friend, and I don't pick other things other than my friend's program.
Well, which is why I picked The Boys, because my friend Dan Trachtenberg directed the pilot.
My pick again is about 5 minutes about a video game no one on this podcast is going to play.
And my pick is, if you haven't seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, go out and see it.
Yeah, that's a movie I've liked more and more.
That movie has grown on me as the distance between the misery of having watched it has widened. And I mean that sincerely. I know that's a little bit weird, but
I mean, I still think most of that movie is really good.
Right? Like those long lingering scenes that went nowhere. They kind of sit. They sit nicely.
Brian, actually, I've now become more and more of an apologist for even those scenes.
Oh, really?
I slowly morphed into more and more because the more I kind of grok kind of the larger story, the more I'm like, you want to know what? Like, yes, they were really long, but like they all did reinforce a thing that like really ties up and did a thing.
Well,
you want to know what that I didn't realize? Because I knew that there were a few like famous kids that were cast in the Manson family. I didn't realize that it was like all of them. Like that there's like 7 or 8 like kids of famous actors.
Yeah, isn't Kevin Smith's daughter Harley Quinn Smith
Kevin
in there?
Smith's daughter, Mia Hawke, who was in Stranger Things season 3, she's in there. Of course, Ethan Hawke and Uma Thurman's daughter. I didn't realize that the main chick that seduces Brad Pitt onto the ranch is Andy McDowell's daughter.
Lena Dunham?
No, Lena Dunham is the mama bear in the Moo Moo.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I saw Gypsy on the IMDb and thought, I remember that name.
No. She's the one who's like just manic energy 17-year-old.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's the one that was hitchhiking. That brings Brad Pitt to the and gives
Margaret
gives him.
Qualley,
Sure.
possibly.
Wait, what?
Maybe.
Oh, yeah. The lady, yeah, Pussycat, the chick who plays Pussycat.
Yeah.
She was great.
I thought she was great too. Yeah.
Well, it's been after.
Goddamn right.
You're welcome, Quentin. I know you've been hounding us for that plug for forever. Fine. We gave it to you.
Alrighty. Hey, everybody, thank you for watching the stream today. We will be back with Cord Killers in a little bit. Justin, you got a stream coming up today, or are you done today?
No, none today. Back tomorrow, and then the away tour. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to make it back for next week's show. Coming back from DEF CON.
Oh,
Yeah,
weird, 'cause
I don't know
think
if
you were
we
in that
will
same situation
either.
too, Brian.
We might have to take a week off.
Or figure something else out. We'll
Yeah.
figure it out.
Okay.
Well, keep an eye out on the feeds. Make
Hey,
sure you subscribe.
congrats
and stuff.
again, Andrew. What a treat. I'm so excited. That must have
really
been
was
fun to be over a year from the work part of that and instead to just have the reward part of that all at once.
Yeah, you certainly become very distant from it, and I was, when I heard last year, because we almost thought last year we may have shot this year, because that was part of their thought, because there's windows of when you can get around sharks and stuff, and so I'm like, I want to shoot it now, but if it airs, it'd be great to have it air next year, because I'd rather have the work and then just move on and then have it just be to talk about it for a while. It works great. It worked out really, really wonderful.
That's great, man.
Yeah. Very cool. All right, everybody. Thank you guys for watching. We'll be back soon with more stuff. Follow everybody. Get your notifications on. Bye.
Bye.
If you